Good morning. Boker Tov. Good morning, good morning. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Washington Hebrew. It's funny to say that to this room of mostly people who are here a lot. But this is our congregation's Amram Scholar Series. As most of you know, I am Rabbi Rachel Schmelkin, and I am really looking forward to this morning's conversation, which we bring to you in partnership with the Jewish Book Council. The Amram Scholar Series offers a stimulating program of free lectures throughout the year in which world-renowned speakers, authors, scholars, political leaders, policy analysts, theologians, and more, this was given to me by Rabbi Shankman, share their perspectives on timely issues or their research into history. The program traces its beginning to the fall of 1954, when the congregation moved into its Macomb Street home. That fall, participating in a nationwide celebration that marked the 300th anniversary of Jewish settlement in the United States, the temple launched what would become this widely recognized Sunday morning lecture program, now in its 71st year. Thank you for all of the wow. Yes, yes. So this is Rabbi Shira Stutman. She is a nationally known faith-based leader and change maker with more than 20 years of experience motivating and inspiring groups large and small. She is the senior rabbi of the Aspen Jewish Congregation and co-host of the top-ranked PRX podcast, Chutzpah, in which she provides Jewish answers to life's contemporary questions and helps listeners build lives of meaning. She also teaches Torah and speaks nationally on topics that include growing welcoming Jewish spiritual communities, building the connective tissues between different types of people, and the current American Jewish community zeitgeist. As founder of Mixed Multitudes, a consultancy that exposes diverse groups of Jews and fellow travelers to the beauty and power of Jewish life, tradition, and conversation, she is currently working on a variety of projects. Isn't this so awkward? I'm almost done, I promise. Running programs that support Jews and having less reactive and more heart-centered conversations about Israel, teaching in progressive institutions about anti-Semitism, and serving as scholar in residence for projects that build the next generation of philanthropic leadership. She was the founding rabbi of Sixth and I Historic Synagogue in Washington, D.C., in addition to a number of other startup Jewish life initiatives. And I also want to share that I had the honor and privilege of working for Rabbi Shira at Sixth and I during the height of COVID, like that 2020 to 2021 year. And a longer story for another time, but I lived in DC on it like part-time while I was in rabbinical school when my husband was my boyfriend. And he and I used to go to Sixth and I all the time. And Rabbi Shira, I would look at you. I know this is going to make you embarrassed, but I would look at Rabbi Shira and think to myself, that is the kind of rabbi that I want to be someday. And you're still one of my role models. So it's really very special to get to be sitting here with you.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay.
So I'm going to ask Rabbi Shira some questions today. We'll be in conversation a little bit, and then we'll open things up to you. And don't worry, you will have a chance to buy her awesome book outside and have her sign it if you'd like after this. And some of you who were at Early Torah yesterday had the opportunity to just get a little taste of what's like one of the most thought-provoking parts, I think. So, are we ready?
I'm very ready.
Okay. So one of the conversations that Rabbi Shira and I had when we were talking, getting to catch up a couple weeks ago, was me sharing with you that Rabbi Shankman and I have had a lot of conversations about her rabbinate versus my rabbinate, right? So this is my 10th year as a rabbi, and this is her 25th year as a rabbi. And one of the things that she's remarked on is that, maybe 2016, 2017, the rabbinate has looked really different than it did for the first part of her rabbinate. And I know that you feel the same. And I'm curious for you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's so nice to be sharing the Bima with you. And thank you all so much for coming out in this frigid, icy weather. I mean, coming from Colorado, where it's also really cold and snowy, but like we see snow so differently out in Aspen, because snow is like, oh, it's fun, it's ski, it's like, but here snow is just yuck. And but anyway, so thank you all for being here. Thank you to Washington Hebrew for having me. And yeah, the rabbinate looks so different. I had this experience, so next week I'm going to be in Cincinnati teaching at a Federation event. And when they called to invite me to the Federation event, they said, we've been wanting to invite you to speak at this event for a few years, but like the last few years have been sad Judaism. So we couldn't invite you out for sad Judaism because your brand is happy Judaism. But now we can go back to happy Judaism. And so we want you this year. And so for a second, I was a little bit like offended because about my brand. But like I get it, because when Sue and I graduated from rabbinical school, I was graduated 2007, and so we were all like, yeah, like Judaism is all about joy and happiness, and anti-Semitism is sort of a thing of the past. We went through that; it was terrible, and now we're in a new stage. And it really felt like that. It really felt like that was rear view mirror Judaism. And your experience, I mean, obviously, especially because of how you started out, but it was a very different experience where anti-Semitism was not in the rear view mirror. It really was a part of your experience from the get-go. And so it's just very different. And the truth is, and if you do read the book, you will see I really do like to foreground joyful Judaism, and I think that really will be more of my brand. I do understand that we are in a different sort of space right now, where anti-Semitism is still something that we have to think about in a way that we didn't when Sue and I were going through rabbinical school, and that is as unfortunate as it is. I also do hope that we can remember that Judaism is also joyful and really actually can add a tremendous amount to our life, in addition to being something that, carries a certain sort of a burden as well. I assume that's what you were implying.
Exactly. Yeah. But it seems like you've probably ended up talking about anti-Semitism a lot more than you would have thought you would.
I do. But
you push back against that.
I do still find myself being like the yes and rabbi. Like I can't get away from it. It's like I always, like I even as I'm writing my talk for Cincinnati, like the first line of this talk, it's like the first line is like, I'm going to begin with a line, and I want you all to notice your blood pressure, and it's like, it's a very, very good time to be Jewish in America, right? So when I say that all to you right now, it is a very good time to, so like let's, by a show of hands, if I say that to all of you, it is a very good time to be Jewish in America. How many of you like raise your hand and say yes? Oh, so actually that's great. It's a minority of you, but like I'm glad that even some of you think that way, because like I actually really do believe it. And by the way, statistics, I'm going to give you a statistic right now, and most of you are not going to believe it's true, and you're all going to want to, argue with it, and because you're Jews, and we can argue with it once this is over, but like Jews are the most liked religion in America. I know. You're all going to argue. Yes, the research was done before October 7th. I know. Okay, fine. Okay, I know. But still, we are. I mean, so it's like, it's a complicated statistic, and also it's like, it's a good time to be Jewish in America. So even still, I want to say like, okay, but
that's
maybe
fair.
You have a different take on it, given how you came up, as a rabbi.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, I think. Yeah. What's it like going from being a rabbi in D.C. to a rabbi in Aspen, Colorado?
Okay. Everyone wants to ask me that question, and I always begin with the same line, which is 27% of the kids in our Hebrew school are on financial aid, which is a very surprising thing to a lot of people who hear Aspen, Colorado, because we actually cover a 3-hour radius of Aspen, Colorado. So just for what it said. So the biggest transition for me is we're a purple congregation, right? Like here at Sixth and I, right, we were a deep blue congregation, right? Like I was able to say, like, if someone was politically to the right of us, I was like, welcome, you're happy. We had at Sixth and I, we had an affinity group for Republicans. It was called Lean Right, because they felt like they were a vulnerable population, like at Sixth and I, and so they had like a place, a safe space they could go there, and if you were to the left of us, they could go to the New Synagogue Project. Like had like a place that they could go also. But in Aspen, there's only one synagogue. There's only one place you can go. And so we have to be for everyone. And that is I've never had that experience in my entire rabbinate. It's and when I was talking to Rachel, Rabbi Schmelkin, about this, I imagine Washington Hebrew is more like that than Sixth and I was.
Yeah.
And so that I've had a lot, especially over the last 2 years in terms of talking about Israel. I've had a lot of learning. You know, at Sixth and I, to a certain extent, I was the most right-wing person in the entire community. And now out there, I am politically, arguably the most left-wing person. And so I've really had to modulate myself a lot to be able to hold a community together. And then also to go from a place where there's a synagogue every 14 blocks.
Right. I mean, it's amazing how the context changes. How you see yourself.
I'll take advice from any of you who have lived in a small town as to how to be, because I am making mistakes right and left. And to a certain extent, there's been a tremendous amount of grace. I think because people can't go anywhere else. But I've really screwed up a bunch of times. In the last few years.
I think we all have. I think that there are no perfect or right words that satisfy everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
All the time in a moment like this.
Yeah.
And
you want me to move my hand down? Yeah. Like this? Yeah? You think that's better? Okay.
Okay.
No, keep on. It wouldn't be a Jewish event if people weren't.
You could come sit right next to me. I'd invite you. Okay, so I want to talk about your book a little bit.
Great, thank you.
And there was a part of your book which I told you really struck me. You talked really beautifully and vulnerably about Mayan, your daughter's brain surgery, and how on some level you were kind of private about it, or your community perceived you as private about it, to the point where people didn't call, they didn't bring food, they didn't really show up because their perception was that you wanted to be left alone. And that struck me because I have 2 children, 3.5 and 6.5. And I had a similar experience where after both of my children were born, I could have really used help and meals, but I just felt really uncomfortable asking for that. I felt really uncomfortable asking a friend to set up a meal train. I don't know why. And so I think there's something deeper going on here where we don't want to ask for help when we need it. And I'm hoping you could speak a little bit about that.
Oh, I could speak about this for hours. So for those of you who don't know me, so I was the rabbi at Sixth and I, and my husband is the head of school at Georgetown Day School, so for another few months. So we were part of 2 communities, right? And each of which are supposed to actually be communities. And my daughter, Mayan, who is now a junior in college, she has something called dystonia, which is one of these Ashkenazi inherited diseases. And so she needed to get, when she was 12 years old, something called deep brain stimulation, which is, something that many people who have Parkinson's get. Okay. So she had this brain surgery, which she had to get during the school year because God forbid she should get it during the summer and miss Jewish summer camp. So instead she missed 6 weeks of school. Okay, that was a choice. But anyway, so she had this, and we were so private, and there was this moment where I was in the parking lot at GDS back when it was down in the Palisades, and I forget what I wrote about in the book, but I forget this moment where this mother and I were talking, and she said something about, well, I would have made a meal for you, but I know how private you all were about this whole thing. And it just struck me as so weird, because here I am as a rabbi, and my husband's supposed to be like building community at this school, and people were not, they didn't do anything to help us because they thought we didn't want anything. And I realized at that moment that, like, for many of us who like work in the world of community, the hardest thing to do is actually not do for others, but is actually to take, right? Like, we know how to do chesed. We just don't know how to take chesed. And the second I realized that, I see it now everywhere from people who work in the community. And so I feel like my work now is actually to teach people not how to do, but how to take. And so so when we had this conversation, I realized, you too. And so it's still, I see it in myself all the time, how hard it is for me to accept when other people want to give me something, how hard it is for me to just say thank you, to take a meal, to accept something for others. And I don't know what it is. I think part of it is inherited Jewish trauma, that we just really feel that, it is this thing, no one's ever going to do anything for us. We have to do everything ourselves, right? The Goyim, they're not going to do anything. The Jews have to do everything. We always have to do it for ourselves, right? You know how many times you've heard that line from other people, right? It's just like, and so it's writ large, but it's also writ small. Our family, no one's going to do anything for you but your family. Your family's the only people who are going to take care of you. You've heard that line too. And so it goes all the way down to the individual. Oh, no one's going to take care of anyone but yourself. You got to work hard. My family motto growing up is, we work like a dog. That's like that was our family motto. That's what we were proud of. It's ridiculous to a certain extent. And by the way, Gen Z, for all that they annoy the crap out of me when they're working for me, that's one of the things that they're teaching us, right? They're teaching us boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. We work 40 hours and then we go home because you should have time off. And so there's actually something that I have to learn about how to take in addition to how to give. So I don't know. We'll see what happens next time, God forbid, someone gets sick. I'll call you.
So thank God you haven't had to.
Thank God. Although what did happen this week is my daughter Mayan is doing for some reason, she's writing her senior thesis in college on Black Jewish relations after October 7th, which I feel like it's going to be a very hard thesis to write. Mm-hmm. So she decided to spend her junior year in junior semester abroad in Cape Town, South Africa. So she got stuck in Angola on her way to South Africa. So we almost needed help this week, but she got out. So now she's in Cape Town having an amazing experience.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so I almost needed help this week, but then I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I have so many questions I have to pick. Okay, you and I had a fascinating conversation because you now work at a Reform synagogue. Though as you...
I do.
As you mentioned, it's like the only synagogue for 4 hours?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a mishmash of things. But I asked you, are you a Reform Jew now? And you really quickly said, no, I am not a Reform Jew. Not in a disdainful way.
Correct.
But not disdainful in any way. But I think that part of that for you is how you see obligation, how you see halakha differently than a lot of Reform Jews do and then the Reform movement does. And so I wanted you to talk about this in your book too, a little bit about obligation. Like, what is it to be Jewishly obligated?
Yeah, I've learned one thing. The Reform movement has one piece of halacha, and that is the Debbie Friedman Mishaberach. That is like the only piece of obligation that I have found in the Reform.
One that is Mishaberach.
It's like the only thing I can't change in the entire. Is it? Do you change it here?
We do change it.
Whoa!
But raise your hand if you're okay with us changing it. Raise your hand if it upsets you when we change it. Be honest. Okay. Yep.
Oh, see? Yeah,
see?
Okay. Yeah. What was the question? It was about
obligation. Jewish obligation.
Yeah. So, do you guys ever play this icebreaker game, like when you get together with new people, which is called, if you didn't do whatever your life path was in life, like what is your alternate life path? Like, think about whatever it is that you did in your life. Maybe you were a lawyer, or maybe you were a doctor, or maybe you stayed at home with the kids, like whatever it is. If you hadn't done that, what would you have done? Okay. So my alternate life path is I would have been a Chabad Rebbetzin. Like that's, if I hadn't been me, I would have been that. I really would have been a Chabad rabbi, but that would have required like a lot of changes. That's like, so there is a deep part of me that's just like super connected to like Jewish law and obligation and like that sort of piece of me or piece of tradition. And so I believe in responsibility and obligation. And so if you do read the book, which by the way is a super quick read, I mean, you can read it in like 10 minutes a day and finish it in a week. It's meant to be that way. It's a book that sort of asks something of you. It sort of says that Judaism asks something of you, which is mostly community oriented. It's not God oriented. And I really do believe that. I believe that Judaism is a type of family that, like any family, does ask something of you, and that even if you don't love it, even if you don't like it all the time, you do love it all the time. And so that is, the part of me that is not a Reformed Jew really is the part that just sort of like believes in that piece of there is something greater than us that asks something of us that even if we don't want to do it all the time, we still have to.
So just to push you on that a little bit, what's an example of something for you that you say as a Jew, I have an obligation to do this and I don't always love it, but it's my obligation?
Tzedakah.
Okay.
Like my husband and I, we tithe our money. Like we consider giving our money like the way we consider paying taxes. Like it's a huge pain in the ass. And so sorry.
It's okay. No.
Okay.
We've heard, everyone here has heard those words.
Okay, fine. Like I don't like paying taxes. I don't like, I certainly don't like where all my taxes go, and the thing about tzedakah is better is that I guess according to Jewish law, it actually dictates more of where your taxes go. And so I get to choose where my tzedakah goes, but it's out of my hands. I give 10% of my post-tax income to tzedakah. Like I'm just very firm about that, and it's like down to the penny, like really. And sometimes when my husband and I are having a huge fight about something, like we went to Costa Rica over winter break. And the one fight that Russell and I have every year is how much to tip people when we go on vacation. So what we do is I'm just like, all right, we're not having a fight. I'm taking X amount of dollars. I'm taking it out of tzedakah, right? And then we're just not going to fight anymore because it's just like, and then it's a great marital compromise because it just comes from our tzedakah line, so we don't have to fight anymore.
Yeah.
So that's anyway.
So it also gives you a guideline.
Yeah, and then it's done. Or
you're not making it up as you go along.
Correct. And so it's like every penny is like part of this thing. So that's an example of the obligation piece of it.
I'm gonna dig in on this even a little more because I think it's really good for our community. What does Shabbat obligation look like for you? Because I think a lot of people in our Washington Hebrew community are trying to figure out what does it look like to be obligated to Shabbat?
So here some of these rules are sort of made up, right, in a certain way, right? It's like because really the laws of tzedakah are between 10 and 20%, right? So the fact that Russell and I said it at 10% was sort of made up in a certain way. So I just want to be clear about that. So for our house, the obligation of Shabbat was that our kids didn't go out on Friday night, period. They did not go out on Friday night. That was the rule. That was our obligation. So then what we had to do was then the kids had to come to us. Their friends had to come to us. So then we made all these rules around it. So then Friday night, because I'm a terrible cook. I am a terrible cook.
Me too.
Really?
Makes me feel like I really could be you when I grow up. I don't have to be able to cook.
Yeah, no. By the way, we should say for egalitarian purposes, so is Russell. Is your husband, is Jeff a terrible cook?
No,
okay, fine.
We have a lot of sushi Shabbat, a lot of takeout Shabbat.
Every Shabbat became takeout Shabbat.
Oh my God, I feel so seen.
This is amazing. So every Shabbat became takeout Shabbat, which meant that in order to get the kids to our house for every Friday night, we let our kids' friends pick where they wanted to do the takeout, which meant that Friday night became a huge investment in our house because if you wanted to get all the kids and all the GDS kids, they're all these fancy kids, to our house, we ended up having to order from 2 or 3 restaurants on a Friday night, right? So it was a massive investment. Now, some people would think, oh, you're spoiling those kids. That's so obnoxious to have to order pizza and Indian and sushi. We said we made a limit of 2 restaurants really at the end. But like, some of you might be rolling your eyes inside your head and saying, that's obnoxious. What, like, you're spoiling these kids. It's disgusting, but I get the judgment. I really do understand it. But for us, we made a values-based decision. We wanted to have 5, 10 kids at our Shabbat table because we had privileged Shabbat. And so, fine, that's what we did. And then that was our decision. Our obligation was Shabbat.
I love that. I might steal that one day.
Yeah, but just then you have to make other decisions, like...
Well, I'll call you then when I need help with those.
We didn't take vacations, like whatever. Like that was the decision.
Okay. This you don't talk about in your book as much, but I do feel like I'm curious how it is part of your book. Proselytizing. I know that this is one of the topics you talk about, and that traditionally, as you know, Jews don't really proselytize. We don't try to bring people into the Jewish fold, though we of course love it when people do come and say they want to be part of us. But I think you want to push the envelope on that.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
Okay, let's go.
So Rachel, Rabbi Shmelkin knows. I know you guys are formal here at Washington Hebrew, so I'm going to use the formal Rabbi Shmelkin.
No, you can call me Rabbi Rachel.
Oh, really?
I tell people too. I push the envelope on that.
Okay. So Rabbi Rachel, when she worked at 6th and I, one of the things she helped with was our conversion program. So I proudly say that I am a proselytizer for Judaism. Now, I know that also for some of you that will increase your blood pressure by whatever percent. I think Judaism is great. I think Judaism is the best. And I know that we are trained, there are 5 things that every Jew knows, right? Like, every Jew knows we don't celebrate Christmas. Like, every Jew knows, there are 5 things. And one of the 5 things that we know is that we don't proselytize. And I get that, and I understand why. By the way, there was a time when we did proselytize, but then at a certain point, because we were getting killed for it, we stopped. And now we take it as a point of pride that we don't. I think we should kind of return to it, not in a way that we kill people who won't convert to Judaism, but if it was up to me, we would return to proselytizing, because I actually think we have the goods. Now, I know most of you won't agree with me, but so, I don't think it should be stand out in the street corners. I don't think we have to do it the way that other people proselytize for their religions, but I just think this idea of dialogue across difference. Do you think America could use that right now? I think America could use that right now, right? There are just so many things of Sabbath. Do you think America could use Sabbath right now? I think America, mindfulness-based eating practice, right? There are just so many things that we have that the world could use right now. So yeah, I could talk about this. I was once brought in by Adat Shalom. I don't know what direction it is, the Reconstructionists, and I as their scholar in residence, and I made a full-throated pitch for proselytization. I gave a half-an-hour lecture as a pitch, and they were I don't know, 200 people in the room. And at the end, I asked everyone, we took a vote in favor of proselytization. And of the 200 people, I was how many people are in favor? And 2 people raised their hands at the end.
But
so
you know what?
I think it didn't take.
I think what I hear you saying is not that we should be standing on street corners trying to put pamphlets in people's faces, because we all know how annoying that is. Correct. But I feel that I have had a couple of moments as a rabbi now where I sort of have done it with people who I can tell are so interested and so connected to our community, and for some reason, they just haven't taken that step to enter a conversion process. And I've said to them, you seem like you're really at home here. Have you ever thought about converting? And they say, no one's ever asked me. And I'm let's meet. And then they meet, and now they're Jewish.
By the way, that's so important. I want to say 2 things about that. I have had these moments where I say to people, you basically already have the identity. Let's get you the status, right? Like you already have Jewish identity. Let's just get you your citizenship papers. It's like someone who, I mean, this is more complicated to say nowadays, right? Someone who came to America at the age of 1 or 2, right? Like, or came to America at the age of 20 and now they're 50. It's like, you're basically an American. Let's get you your passport, right? Because becoming Jewish is a certain sort of process. What I don't want people to do is go to their non-Jewish daughters-in-law or sons-in-law and start pushing them to become Jewish. That is not what I'm pushing here right now, right?
Right.
I think non-Jewish partners are perfect exactly as they are, and if they want to become Jewish, they can do it on their own time and in their own way. I just don't want that to be the conclusion that anyone comes to today. Because interfaith couples are beautiful in their own ways, and that is, people are on their own journeys. Yeah. I want to just say that out loud.
Yes. Okay. I think we got that, but it's always good to clarify, especially since I wasn't 100% sure we weren't streaming. But I think we're not. That's right. She said, are we recording? I said, I'm not sure. But I don't think so. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I want to open it up a little bit. Right. Once people read the book, if they haven't already, what is the thing you hope that they're going to continue to wrestle with afterwards? Continue to think about afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful that like a lot of the people who are here, you said, are people who come to Washington Hebrew regularly. But I think one of the missteps that we rabbis often take is we encourage people to do Judaism in the building too much, because we want to see people's faces in the building all the time, and like we forget to encourage people to do Judaism on the streets or in their homes. And so I hope that like one of the things the book does is encourage you to do Judaism in the building. Well, not do it in the building less, but like do it outside the building more. Like the other, so in Aspen right now, I'm learning how to cross-country ski. Does anyone here know how to cross-country ski? Yeah, okay. So it's very good exercise, but it's really hard because you have to okay. So one of the things I have to figure out is like whether to buy gear or not. And so I have this ethical dilemma because to buy gear in Aspen is very expensive, but to buy gear online is much cheaper, but I don't get any advice on what gear to buy. And so in the Talmud, it's very, very clear that you are not allowed, if you go into a store to get advice on buying something, then you better buy it from that store. You're not allowed to get advice knowing that you're going to buy something somewhere else. Because in the Talmud, they didn't have Amazon, but there were clearly still people going to Shmulik when they know they were going to buy something from Ezra because he sells it cheaper somewhere else. So I have this ethical dilemma live right now because I know I could buy it cheaper online. So I'm thinking about it every single day. So I'm probably going to wait till the end of the season and then just buy it in Aspen, but get the advice. Not that you needed to know that. So what I want is for more people to like know the Jewish knowledge and then apply it outside every single day. And so whether you learn it from my book or you learn it from Rabbi Rachel and then apply it outside in the world, that's what I hope people do.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
Because I like hearing what you're wrestling with in your own head.
Yeah.
And this kind of ethical dilemma that you're raising about where do I buy it? And then can I go in and get the advice? But I shouldn't get the advice if I'm not really going to buy it from them. Yeah. I think we are living in a moment where people are going to have to make these decisions also about AI all the time. Like, what's the line of where to use AI and not use AI? And have you seen anything in Jewish text that helps you with this?
So I'm glad. So I have this podcast called Chutzpad, which I love that you said with an Israeli accent. You said chutzpad. So I've never called. So this podcast called Chutzpad. If you don't listen to it, what we do is we take actual people write to us with advice, and we use Jewish law to like answer their questions. So we had one.
It's like
about,
a responsa.
Yeah, but so we had one about AI.
Okay,
and
I haven't listened to it.
And it got the most vitriol of any. Because I actually spoke honestly about how I use AI, which is that I use it, but I'm honest about when I use it. So I will say, I will use it sometimes for parts of my sermons, but then I'll just be honest about how I use it for parts of my sermons. So people were they were like, well, if I wanted a rabbi sermon that used AI, I would just go to AI. So I do use AI from time to time for my sermons. Usually I'll be like, this sermon is 1,200 words. No one wants to hear me speak for 1,200 words. Make it 900 words. And then AI will just cut it down to 900 words. So
and what is there a Jewish, what's the Jewish grounding for that? Being honest?
Yeah, the Jewish grounding is just being honest. The Jewish grounding is being honest. And the Jewish grounding is also, it's here to stay. It is part of the zeitgeist, and so it's not going away. And so we might as well use it. Yeah. And also, no one wants to hear the rabbi give a 20-minute sermon.
No one ever said, Rabbi, your sermon was too short.
Right.
Have any of you ever said that?
No one has ever said that. Right.
You did say once the sermon was too short? Yeah. Wow. Are you a member here?
Yeah.
I hope I'm going to get you here. I do, just for that. So we have a little time. I want to open things up if you have questions. And what I'll do, if you do have a question, is I will come around with the microphone.
Yeah. I will say my favorite questions are the most, as we say in Hebrew, charif ones, like the ones that you think are the most difficult questions. No, we don't like softballs here. So if there are really hard things that you're struggling with, we prefer those.
Be controversial, but also don't give a lecture leading up to your question.
Right. Questions in the form of a question. We used to say at 6 to 9.
Yes, I like that. Okay, I see a hand.
I'm not sure if this is controversial or not, but I was struck by your comment, knowing when someone has a Jewish identity, you just need to give them the status. What, to your mind, defines that Jewish identity?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really hard question. I was sitting with a Jewish identity often means that you feel Jewish. You just feel Jewish inside. Just a month ago, I was sitting with someone from DC. He's a non-Jewish father. He has a Jewish wife. He has 3 Jewish daughters that he's raising as a Jew. And he says, well, I feel Jewish at this point. And I'm like, okay, so you should convert. And he's like, well, I feel Jewish. I was like, well, if you feel Jewish, then you should go to mikveh. And he says, well, why do I need to go to mikveh if I feel Jewish? I was like, because now you're part of the system. And if you're part of the system, then you should do the thing that Jews do in order to become Jewish. And so it was like, it was like so meta, because the whole conversation itself was him arguing with me about why he needed to do the thing that Jews do in order to become Jewish. And I said, just the fact that we're having this fight is an indicator that you need to do the thing because we're having the Jewish fight that you would have with a rabbi. Like, you get, like, it was like so circular because the fact that he was fighting with a rabbi about it. So I think that, like, once you actually feel Jewish, like, then you should do the thing. I mean, and the thing that I can compare it to that really works best for me is actually getting your passport, like to become an official American. Because you can feel like an American, but like it's nice to have your passport at the end of the day. So that's the closest that I can get to it. But the identity and status really do help. And it is harder nowadays, I will say, because at a lot of synagogues, including mine in Aspen and at 6 and I, we'll let you come up on the bima for an aliyah. Like, you can put on a tallis and we won't make you take off the tallis. Like, we'll let you perform Judaism if that's what you want to do, and we won't call you out, because why would we? And so there's nothing we won't let you do, really. And so you might feel like, well, then I don't really need to go to mikveh. I don't, and so, okay, like, fine. But I just feel like at the end of the day, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just go to mikveh and do the thing? That might not be a good enough, might not be a fulfilling answer for you. But that's actually that's the sort of the gray waters that you swim in when you're part of non-halachic Judaism.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is kind of an advice question. So my mom, who is now 94, spent the first 88 years of her life in a fairly robust Jewish community, and then moved to a community where she is the representative of the Jewish faith, living in a very red place where lots of the people who she lives with have never had a conversation with a Jew, never met a Jew, and have very strongly held views about what Judaism is all about. I'm curious if you have advice for her about how to live in a non-defensive way and not be in people's faces about it.
Do you know that 40% of Americans have never met a Jew? Which is, isn't that stunning to those of us who live in places like Washington, D.C.? Like, it is, because I just wrote a chapter of a book about, something called, I made this phrase up, Judeo-ignorance. That like so many of us, when someone says something that's like I was just invited to speak at something. It was a few years ago now. It was like a Hanukkah thing. And and so I said yes, and it was like a holiday thing. And so they said, we need you to speak and talk about Hanukkah. And I said, sure. And she said, okay, great. So now we have a Jew and we have a Muslim, and now we just need to get a normal person. And so it would be so easy to say that was anti-Semitic. And sure, it was a little anti-Semitic, but like, also 40% of Americans have never met a Jew before. And it's just like, there's so much they don't know. Like one of my congregants at 6 to 9, like she went home to her non-Jewish boyfriend's family for Christmas, and like the mother-in-law's pastors had given to the mother-in-law to give to the Jewish daughter-in-law for Christmas a book about, I mean, this is terrible. It's a book about how if the Jews had just found Jesus, then maybe the Holocaust wouldn't have happened. It's a terrible book, right? It's a terrible book. But once the daughter-in-law explained how terrible the book was, the mother-in-law was like horrified, and she threw it out, and she went back to the pastor, and he was horrified, and he threw it out. Like, so there are these moments when, like, if you just like have the energy, people will learn. And that's what's happened. I'm sure your mother, some of the people are horrible, and they are anti-Semitic, and some of them are like ready to learn. And so the thing with your mother is like, she just has to decide how much energy she has, right? And so it's like, she can decide, okay, today I have energy to like talk about what Judaism is, and today I don't. And I think that's the advice I would give her. It's like, it is not her job. By the way, today is my day. It is my job to be able to teach people about what Judaism is. Mondays are my day. That might be what she decides. She's going to do an Intro to Judaism class. And anyone who wants to take it, they can take it. And then when it's not Intro to Judaism Day, she's not doing it. And like, it's just not her job to do it 24/7. By the way, for those of us who have studied racial justice, which is, many of us have been studying it, especially these last few years, that's one of the things we are taught all the time. Like, it is not the job of Black Americans to teach us all the time about how to show up, how we should show up in the world. And we've taken that to heart. And so it's true for her as well. But that is hard. And it is hard for her, I imagine.
Hi, May. Thanks for being close, so I don't have to walk far.
I just wanted to ask you if you can give a little more words about the meaning of obligation.
Obligation.
My sense is that the obligation you referred to, the Shabbat. My sense is that there is a tendency in Judaism to structure the meaning of that word on the one hand. On the other hand, this is going to sound arrogant, and please accept my apology, but I thought that the main obligation was to follow Leviticus 19. Do not forget the stranger. That the rest is, and I'm now quoting Rabbi Shachman, commentary. And so why is it that one needs to follow a code when the alternative is so obvious?
Glad that he asked you that question and not me. That's a hard one.
Okay, so let me just make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. So, do not oppress the stranger is the core, and the rest is commentary. And so what you're implying is that So the most important thing is to take care of the stranger, and the rest is. And so therefore, if we're not taking care of the stranger,
It doesn't matter what else we do. I learned this from Chapman, and I didn't put the last sentence, is that go and study Torah.
yeah. Well, I think that is. Where does it say? Where does it say the rest is commentary?
This is from it's Hillel. That he was being asked, can you teach me the Torah while I stand in one foot? And then it says,
Doesn't he say now go and study?
I thought so.
Yeah. So there are two understandings of what Hillel says right there. This is fascinating because this might be the sort of the split between Orthodoxy and liberal Judaism right there. Okay. So this is okay, this is great. Well, I would love. So what like someone like Rabbi Shankman would say is do not oppress the stranger, the rest is commentary. And where Orthodoxy would say is do not oppress the stranger, now go and study. So the difference is the rest is commentary means focuses on do not oppress the stranger. Now go and study focuses on there's a lot more that you have to learn. So I think that would be a whole book in and of itself about like where the flow chart goes from there.
my recollection of that commentary is that it wasn't so much, that Leviticus is not so much about oppressing, but about forgetting.
Right.
In some senses it may be the same, but it is the forgetting that to me resonates the most. And a moment ago, there was a conversation about proselytizing.
Yeah.
This is if you want to have someone become more of a Jew,
Yeah.
that's all you need to say. Don't forget about the stranger. And the stranger is anyone that is a stranger to me, to her.
I mean, amen. Amen. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, yes, amen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking about Isaiah. Like, is this the fast I desire? If you're sinning, if you're straying in all these other ways, but you're fasting, like, you think that's enough?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is
correct.
It is a
Right.
complicated question.
I could not agree with you more. Right.
We probably have time for one or two more questions. I love the early Torah crew is really stepping up here.
I've been reading, or actually listening to, Angela Bookdahl's book. And she is always considered a stranger. What do you think of that? I mean, although she's reached the height of rabbinism, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but I'm actually grateful that she has that Torah to teach. I mean, I'm sorry that it happened to her, because I know that it brought her personally so much pain, and she's such a wonderful person. But it's terrible to say it this way, but it's so good for the Jews because she really has been able to take that pain and turn it into such beautiful Torah. Like, I know she's going to be here in a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
So just
Yeah.
in case people don't know, Rabbi Angela Bookdahl is the senior rabbi of Central Synagogue in New York, and she speaks very openly about being an Asian Jew. The first, I think,
Korean American,
rabbi and cantor.
Correct.
Stunning voice. But maybe mother isn't Jewish, wasn't Jewish, dad is. She's had all kinds of ways where people from all different parts of Judaism, especially Orthodox Judaism, she's been told over and over again, you're not really Jewish, you're not real, all these kinds of things.
Right. And and so I mean, and that, going back to the identity and status question, like that is so interesting. I don't know if she talks about that in her book. So you have to come back for that, because she is brilliant and she is kind and she is generous and she is the real deal. So while I wish she hadn't experienced that pain personally, because it's terrible, and especially now that she's put herself in the arena in such a public way, it's not going away. There's a part of me that's grateful because she's turned it into such beautiful Torah for the rest of us, and any of us who have ever experienced either Jewishly or personally sort of being put on the outside and being forced to be on the outside looking in. I just think it really is so meaningful to all of us. So it's like any sort of artist who has ever used their art to help the rest of us. I wish they hadn't experience the pain, but the fact that they're using their pain, to help the rest of us, I'm grateful for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's like you, Rabbi Rachel. She's both a rabbi and she has a beautiful voice. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you then, after we read your book, by the way, we're going to take I'm going to make someone take a picture of Rabbi Shira and me at the end of this, and then I'm going to have Rabbi Shira exit into the rabbinic atrium so that she can quickly get to the table so that she can sign your book. So please don't rush her at the bima.
Right.
But I really do hope that everyone here will read the book or listen to the book, though I wish it was your voice on the book.
I wish it was my voice too. They didn't ask me.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was trying to pretend it was your voice, but it's not your voice. What are 3 other books that you think I'm looking out at this room. I know this congregation. These people are readers. Mm-hmm. What are 3 other books that you think we should be reading?
Wow, that is such a wonderful question. Well, I think Angela's book is just the best, and I think listening to it is wonderful because she sings on it, and it's such a good listen. And she does read her own book, which I think is great. I love Anne Lamott's books. I know she's a Christian, but she's a secularist Christian. There's not, I don't even know if she might mention Jesus every once in a while, but she's, I love, should I say more Jewish people?
Either, maybe a couple Jewish ones.
Who are the Jewish people you're reading these days?
That's a good question. You?
Oh, that's so sweet.
What else have I read recently that's been a Jew? I'm reading David Grossman's book of essays.
Oh.
That came out post-October 7th.
Yes.
I'm reading a lot on Israel. I read Einat Wilf's War of Return recently. That's a whole other conversation.
Daniel Sokach's book. We have to talk about Israel.
Yes, I'm in the middle of that one.
That's
actually,
good.
so all the Jewish books I'm reading right now are about Israel.
Yeah. I'm trying not to read too many books about Israel right now. This painful moment. Edgar Correct.
Yes.
I love reading his books.
Did you read Autocorrect? His newest book of short stories?
Yes.
I just read
Excellent.
that. Yeah, that was good.
So good. All right, there you go.
There you go.
Books.
That's a good list for you all. Email me if you want me to remind you.
Anyway, thank you
said.
all so much for coming
Thank
out
you,
on a Sunday morning.
thank you for being here.
Really.
Thank you to the Jewish Book Council. So, order of operations, Rabbi Shira and Rabbi Rachel get a picture.